Welcome to the Lounge Lizards podcast. It's so good to have you here. It's a leisure and lifestyle podcast founded on our love of premium cigars, as well as whiskey, travel, food, work, and whatever else we feel like getting into. My name is Gizmo, and tonight I'm joined by Rooster, Poobah, Senator, Pagoda, Grinder, and Bam Bam. A full house of lizards. And our plan is to smoke a cigar, drink some scotch, talk about life, and of course, have some laughs. So take this as your 15th official invitation to join us and become a card-carrying lounge lizard. Plan to meet us here once a week. We're going to smoke a Cuban cigar tonight, share our thoughts on it, and give you our formal lizard rating. Poobah will share the story of Juan López, and we'll chat about the benefits of different types of cigar storage, all among a variety of other things for the next hour. So sit back, get your favorite drink, light up a cigar, and enjoy as we pair the Juan López Selection number 1 with 15-year aged Dalwhinnie Scotch. A Cuban Corona Gorda tonight from Juan López, the Juan López number 1. A cigar I have not had. I've had a Juan López 2. I know that Rooster loves these cigars, right, Rooster?
Yes, sir.
And Poobah, very kind to provide these to us tonight. Let's cut this thing and see what we're getting on the cold draw and the wrapper.
It's a December 2019 cigar.
Awesome.
Nice.
It's a little over 2 years old.
The wrapper smells very nice.
It does.
No, it's 3 years old.
December 2019 is 2 years and a month.
2 years. And a month.
2 years and a month.
Lizard math.
It's the content we're becoming known for. All right.
Getting a typical cedar note on the cold draw.
Yeah, really nice raisin, maybe. A little raisin.
Yeah.
The wrapper is very toothy.
Reminiscent of a ras.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a sort
Very
of rustic,
fragile, too.
Got a
Yeah.
rustic
slapper.
construction.
A lot of spice on the cold draw for me.
Just tastes like a humidor a little bit. Kind of just
A lot of
cedary.
cedar.
Cedar.
Yeah. All right, let's light this thing.
It's a 46 by 5.6 inch
Yeah.
stick.
Selection number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try this thing.
The Corona Gorda you mentioned.
Yep.
That's good, nice creamy smoke, right?
Mm.
I love the selection number 2.
A
The
ton of-
JL2.
Ton of smoke output.
Number 1.
Good
is
smoke
better.
output.
Number one's better.
Good to know. Oh, that's nice.
A lot of flavor
Wow.
right on the first
Right.
draw.
Wow,
A
that's
lot of flavor.
ton of flavor.
Ton of, 100% agreed.
Wow.
I
I
can
like
s-
it already.
I can see why Rooster likes these.
So it's got some spice, right? A little bit of spice, a lot of cedar,
I'm getting creaminess here.
and creamy. Yeah.
Grinder, you had a surprised look on the first puff.
I'm getting like cardamom, like a different. Well, maybe not cardamom, like a different spice. I don't know.
Yeah, this is really nice.
Very, very,
Like a
very unique.
Nutmeg.
Yeah, perhaps.
Be nutmeg. Yeah.
Yeah.
Baking spices. They're nice. They're a really nice change of pace to have around.
Well, honestly, it's a flavor bomb for me right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
right on
not
the
light.
line.
It's
I'm
like a
very
good medium
surprised.
smoke.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not, it's not a light smoke.
No.
I'm surprised.
It's a lot of smoke output.
Just the shape in my hand reminds me of like a Magnum 46.
Exactly.
Yes.
But the flavor on the light on this is more robust on the light to me than the Magnum 46. I'm surprised and I'm enjoying already what I'm getting out of this.
It's a good. They come in sliding lid boxes of 25.
Flavor forward, I would say.
I've had the
Flavor
number 2,
forward.
not as flavorful as this guy.
Yeah, definitely. I'm
Yeah.
with you on that, Ben.
One's better.
Yeah. You've said that to me many times.
Yeah, and that's kind of. I wouldn't say universally because that would be too broad of a statement, but it's popular. The 1 is a popular size, but there are people who really love the 2 as well.
How much for this?
They're not particularly expensive. I can't really remember how much I paid for them, but it wasn't more than $300, maybe $2
I will pursue these.
something.
They're like $11, $12 a
Oh,
stick.
definitely worth having a few boxes.
I'm seeing on Terminal they're out of stock, but it's 300 for the
Are they hard to get?
Cabot 25.
No.
You can get 'em.
So you can get them, but they're not. It's a little bit about Juan López. It's like a boutique brand, or what like some would call a portfolio brand within the Habanos SA catalog. It's like an El Rey del Mundo or La Gloria Cubana, not in the class of a La Gloria Cubana, but it's one of these boutique brands within the catalog. So, you know, their output in terms of volume isn't like what a global brand would be, like a Cohiba or a Monte Cristo or.
I read earlier they only
Artist.
have 10 Vitolas. Is that true?
No,
Something
less
like
than,
that?
no, it's less
Less
than
than 10?
Yeah, it's less than that. So
Wow.
they've got a number 1, which is a Corona Gorda. They have the number 2, which is a Robusto. They have a Corona, which is a 42 by 142, a Panatella, and a Petite Corona. And then they do a bunch of regionals on an annual basis.
You don't see a lot of regionals come up, though. I mean, it's just like this number 1 and number 2 are like the most popular sizes.
Yeah, they're out there. They're out there.
Do we have context on the band and the name and
A little bit. So it's not. It's a little bit obscure. There's no big wow in the brand history like the storied history of Bolivar or Partagas or anything like that. But the company was founded in 1876 by Juan López Selección. He created the brand. And then in 1908, he passed it to his heirs. Then he sold it to a group, Sociedad Cosme Pesoicia, in 1918. And then they held on to it until the revolution. And then at various points in history, it was also known pre-revolution as Flor de Juan Lopez. And of course, the factory was seized, post-revolution, during the revolution was seized and taken over. And they're just known to be one of actually the better, a little bit harder to find brands outside of Cuba until recently. So this was something that was really more of a portfolio brand that was a little bit harder to find up until the last, 10 or 15 years. So now they're a little bit more readily available than they once were off the island. And that's about it. In terms
I
of the
like this a
background.
lot.
I love this fucking cigar. I
Very
don't know
good.
what else to say.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It's so good.
How do you really feel, Bam?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting an enormous amount of floral and little graham cracker, but it's hitting me like a truck. It's wonderful.
They're good cigars.
It's got a lot of cedar, spice,
Yeah,
a
I'm
little
getting-
bit of
I'm-
sweetness.
I'm
and,
getting the harder flavors personally, like this more spicy. This definitely the cedar, woodsy.
yeah.
Petrichor.
Gizmo Senator, what are you guys getting on it?
I think it's really well balanced because I'm getting the spice that Grinder is talking about, but I'm also getting some creaminess and a little sweetness. It's complex. It's robust. It's very, very tasty on the light.
Agreed.
I'm with him. I mean, to me, I think the word complex is the best word that I've said so far, or I've heard so far. It's like it has a little bit of everything. It's refined. It's really, really smooth. And I'm really enjoying it so far, a half an inch in.
Has anyone had a young Juan Lopez #1?
They're relatively
Yeah,
young.
these are fairly
3
young.
years.
This
2
is
years.
a
A year, 2
2019.
years.
I have a 2020
okay.
box and a 2011.
And
2011 is
off
like
the charts.
It's like this, but just completely balanced, very complex.
Wow.
All the flavors like kind of really blend together. Very smooth. So one thing I want to say, we used to smoke a lot of Honduran and Nicaraguan cigars. Like I'm going back like last 3, 4, 5 years. So compared to like a Nicaraguan cigar, which is, they tend to be heavy. They tend to be full bodied, a lot of nicotine. These cigars, when you go to like cigar like Juan Lopez or, like the Partagas D4s, you get such creamy flavors, a lot of floral notes and fruity notes that you don't get with that Nicaraguan tobacco. So these are like super complex, very balanced, but the notes that you get from this, you just don't get them from any other tobacco out there, any other cigar out there.
So I have to
Very
say,
tasty.
I have limited to no experience with Juan Lopez as a brand. And I think the only one I ever had, Rooster, if you remember, you'd given me once. It was very young, but I have to assume it was the number 2 of this. I don't remember it being this shape, and I didn't love it. It probably just needed some time to age and fully develop in terms of its flavor profile. But from that experience, I wasn't that impressed. And from the brand, it's not as known. It doesn't have the cachet that a Partagas or an Upman or some of these Amonte, some of these brands have. And so I've always been very hesitant to buy a box of Juan Lopez and really give it a fair shot. And I'm very glad we're reviewing this, because I'm just immediately sitting here saying to myself, I've missed out, because already I want this in my humidor.
Yeah, I mean, I started out with the number 2. I used to smoke them, and then once in a while number 1s. But the number 1 has so much more flavor, I think, than the number 2 does. And the cigar that you had, the number 2, that was actually from 2012.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And the Juan Lopez number 1 is from 2011. So
interesting.
Very different.
Your point then about the flavor is spot on, because I found that cigar to just lack enough flavor to be interesting to my palate and what I normally go for. But this stick, wow.
It's like night and day. 1 to the 2. It really is.
People love the 2. I mean, people do really love it. There are people like within our group, in our world, that actually really hold that cigar in high regard.
And that's a Robusto, right? The 2?
Yeah. Okay. So, it's just one of those things. It's like personal preference, but this delivers it kind of, I think it kind of tastes like a little bit like Partagas-y. It's got a little bit of that fullness. It's got a little pepper through the nose, but just not a ton, but just enough. And then it tastes just very like cedary and woody and good. It's complex.
I think it has the right amount of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really kind of does.
It's very pepper
very
on the
balanced.
retrohale.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have used the term...
but not a ton.
Yeah, a little bit, not
just
a lot.
A little bit, not a lot. Yeah.
You guys have used the term Cuban twang. Are you getting that in this? And what is that? What does that mean?
It's not as salty as what to me is like what a Partagas would be.
I agree.
I see.
It's
It
minerally.
doesn't have that. It doesn't have that Cuban twang.
So it's the minerally salty quality is what the twang is.
To me, I get that on the tip of my tongue, or like the front of my tongue when I tap the head of the cigar. That, to me, I like on a D4, I get that every single time. And then when you smoke it, you're getting the minerally saltiness of it. That's how I generally kind of feel the twang, like myself. But this doesn't have it as much as some of those others. But
it's that Caribbean soil.
Yeah,
That's exactly it.
This is a special cigar, man.
Yeah.
Call me crazy. I could do 2 of these back to back.
Oh yeah,
because of the flavor. It's so delicious.
Yeah, because it's bold flavors, but the strength isn't there.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
That's perfectly said.
I mean, honestly, I just keep sitting here. I'm still like, the level of regret I have right now is just so off the charts that I haven't sourced these myself, and I've been skeptical for some reason of this brand. But I just keep holding this in my hand, and all I'm envisioning is a Magnum 46 that I is part of my rotation. I really like that cigar a lot, but I gotta say, so far, this smokes better to me than a Magnum 46, and I would slot in already ahead of a Magnum 46 in that slot within my rotation.
You got to come over my place more often, Senator.
I will gladly.
Some special sticks.
I'll be there tomorrow morning.
So we know Senator's going to clear out inventory. You better share when you do that.
Yeah, I mean, I've had this box in my humidor for like a year. I would go in it every now and then and just grab one. Not something. They are not exactly like, they're not that easy to really. You can source them, but they're not ubiquitous. So I try not to just. I try and get, like right now, perfect time. Everybody's enjoying the cigar. Now they're available. I can share them. Kind of like enjoying something like this is more enjoyable in a group. You're like, oh my God, well, I'm first time I'm smoking this cigar. So for me, I get a lot more ROI on just being like, let's all have it, smoke it, talk about it. So I'm glad I didn't just smoke them in my truck or, you know what I mean?
How did these smoke? If you said you've had them for a year and a half, how did they smoke then versus now? And I know we're under a microscope now and we're really analyzing it, but it's getting better.
Oh,
dramatically better, a little bit?
Markedly better.
Okay.
Sure.
Did you
than when
guys
I first
notice
got
the
'em, but
cap on this?
It's a
When you
triple
cut
cap.
it, it's a triple cap.
Well, most Cubans
Most
are triple
Cubans,
cap.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's rolled nice.
It's got, I don't know. There's a thing about it, like maybe what you were saying, Senator, like it has that Partagas thing, a touch of Upman, a little bit of that Cohiba-y thing. Like it has a little bit of all of the different kind of Cuban marcas, I think. I think it's really a nice
It's toasty.
touch of everything.
Is it toasty?
It's toasty. That's a good descriptor.
Does it taste toasty? Does it taste campfire-y, toasty, kind of
Oh,
earthy-ish, maybe?
I don't get. I mean,
I
I don't get smoke. I get toast, but definitely
yeah,
not smoke.
I get the earthiness and a little toasty, almost bready quality about it, but I definitely not campfire. I wouldn't go that
Yeah.
far.
I just put a mandate out to my newly acquired suppliers.
Sourcing as we speak.
King Bam Bam.
Fetch me my cigars.
minions,
But
my
like-
minions.
Anytime, like I just ashed it, and it's got that little nipple on it that says good. You know.
How's everyone's burn? I mean, for me, it's
Great
a
burn.
pretty razor sharp burn.
Yeah.
Nice looking ash.
My draw is very nice. Just a little bit of resistance. Very nice.
Yeah, and you mentioned the draw, and obviously, again, I really like the Magnum 46.
I know where you're
but
going, yeah.
I always criticize the draw because it has a little resistance, but I think just a little too much. And this started with a little resistance, which is why in every way this keeps reminding me of the Mag 46, but it's opened perfectly. Perfectly. This
And
is
the
what I wish.
combustion's really nice too. right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think you get a little more spice with the 46.
I
don't
agree.
you?
Yeah.
This has like a good balance of cedar, a little sweetness, and pepper on the retro hill, but not a lot. Just a little bit of pepper.
Yeah. It's a different type of spice. It's a spicier spice.
Right.
Where this, Grinder mentioned cardamom, or I feel like it's hard to place
It's
exactly
like
what it is.
baking spices.
Baking spice. It's a sweeter spice.
I think. I mean, I don't. We're not here to compare, but I would. For my palate, I like the Mag 46 spice bouquet better than this bouquet. If you want to call it a bouquet, I don't know. It's a little harsher for me
This is.
than I would normally go for. Then maybe that's just my.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel the exact opposite.
Me
I do
too,
too.
but halfway through, I'm getting more pepper. But I love that. And I still get that really beautiful floral note. A little bit of pepper I'm getting.
I feel like where I slot in a Mag 46 is generally where I'm looking for a little bit more of a kick than where I would put this. Yeah, I think this is a little bit lighter for me than the Mag 46 is, especially in the spice area. But I could put this in anywhere in the day, I think.
Yeah, you can. You could. I wouldn't smoke it first thing, but
Rooster would.
like some of the seams.
Rooster
would.
gave you.
I've had this in the morning.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I'm with
Fantastic.
Rooster
Yeah,
on this one.
I
Coffee
mean,
and a jail one, baby.
yeah,
any day.
maybe I could. I mean, I'm not saying it may not be my first choice,
Followed
It's
by
the coffee.
98.
The Rooster has the coffee test. It's the Rooster test.
but like the
official Rooster
seams
coffee
on it,
test.
like
Coffee
I
in
got
the
a
morning.
seam. I got a seam. Like some of the. This is where like some of these. It's the luck of the draw a little
yeah,
bit.
there's a little crack by
Little
this. by the-
seam here. It's like coming,
Yeah.
but it tastes really good. It's like a Ramon Alones type construction problem where you get a little bit of that.
And that's the thing, whether you're talking about a Ramon Ionis, this cigar, some of the others that we've described as more rustic, going in, you look at that cigar and you say, it's not the prettiest cigar, but the flavor that it delivers, it just doesn't matter.
Also, the wrapper is really fragile. on this.
Fragile, very fragile.
So,
Yeah.
So if you, God forbid, if you get, if the draw's a little tight, be very careful if you're going to go in with the perfect draw. Super careful because that wrapper is going to crack.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any circumstance under which I would smoke this outside unless it was absolutely perfect, no wind. I think that this is something that any sort of wind is really
I
gonna.
agree.
It's gonna smoke this whole cigar for
Yep,
you.
agreed.
It's not a
Pagoda,
golf. It's not a golf
Are you
course. stick.
liking it?
Yeah, I think for my flavor profile, I think I find it a little on the milder side. While I'm experiencing a little bit of the woodiness, I have experienced a little bit of the pepperish. In fact, I kind of agree with Grinder on the thing. I'm feeling a little bit of harshness in the back of my throat. But overall, just a milder profile. Yeah, meaning complex from the perspective of different flavors. Pretty consistent, good combustion. Yeah, enjoying it, but I tend to prefer, cigars which are a little bit more stronger and bolder and, a little more flavorful. So.
I mean, to Pagoda's point about it being a milder smoke, I don't disagree in the sense that for me, this is incredibly versatile and that I actually would easily on a Saturday morning have a cup of coffee, like Rooster said, and light one of these up, or with lunch have one of these, where I think the Magnum 46, and I'm sorry, I know I keep bringing it back to that, but they feel so similar, and there's a lot of similarities between them, where Mag 46 to me delivers more spice that would be better served late afternoon, evening, and can even hold up better with a meal than this cigar. But this thing, I mean, this JL1, anytime, any place, it would slot in.
The retro hair for me right now is like it's like horseradish, to be honest with you. Like I'm struggling not to sneeze.
I have the opposite on my retro hair.
spicy.
Exact opposite. I'm still getting a lot of sweetness for me. A lot of floral notes I'm still getting here.
Poobah, do you want to provide any Afrin?
Yes, I have. I always.
Maybe Grinder's nose.
I feel very judged right now. I am not addicted to Afrin. Just FYI.
That's questionable.
What do you think about this cigar paired with champagne and caviar?
I think it would work.
I think with champagne, this would be outstanding. And I say that because the spices are sweeter spices. They're not spicy. And there's a creaminess about this cigar that would go so well with champagne. So I think actually it would be an excellent pairing. I'm glad you said it.
Speaking of pairings, let's talk about our Scotch pairing tonight. What do we have?
Tonight we have a Dalwhinnie 15. Dalwhinnie is a Highland Scotch, Speyside, Spey. This is Scotch to me is like, it's a very good like core Scotch. If you have like a collection of Scotch, some of us do, this is like a core, for me, it's like a very core Scotch. It's light, it's got honey. The thing that's unique about the Dalwhinnie for what I like to typically drink is that it has really no smoke to it. We can taste it, very, very sweet on the nose, very sweet on the palate. You don't get any spice until the end, probably just a touch on the finish, but it's like got a very sweet, smooth. You don't get any smoke. I think it kind of is a good yin to the yang of the cigar we're smoking right now.
I think it's working very well. It's almost like neither are trying to fight for first place. Like they're both okay staying in their lane.
Yeah, this is a very drinkable Scotch, actually.
Yeah, the 12 is like really light.
Yeah,
the Dalwhinnie 12.
I didn't even know.
They sure.
Interesting.
I didn't know that.
I think
never
they do
seen
have
that.
a 12. They used to have a 12.
I mean,
maybe
I'm pretty sure they have a 12, but this is. Let me see.
I just remember it always being light. I don't. Well, maybe it was. Maybe I'm wrong. It's not a Scotch I drink often.
Dalwhinnie 12 is not something that I'm finding.
Okay, so maybe I'm wrong.
This is something I learned today. I actually didn't know this. This is one of this. So it's Diageo, like so much of the world. They have this like classic malt selection of like core for their portfolio, core scotches that are very prototypical, but get a balance of like all the different regions they're in Scotland. The 6 are the Glenkinchie 10-year, which is a lowland Scotch, the Dalwhinnie 15, which is a Highland, the Craggamore, which is Speyside, Oban 14, which is, we all like Oban. It's more
we did that
smoky.
one. Yeah,
I would say that's West Highland. Talisker 10, which Pagoda brought.
We'll
with
review
us
it sometime.
potentially.
Yeah, we're going to do that in a future episode.
Future episode, Talisker 10. A big fan of Talisker 10. And then the Lagavulin 16. I didn't know this. They have this. It's a marketing scheme, I'm sure. Of like, they call them the classic malts, but Yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't know much more about Dalwhinnie, the distillery, aside from the fact that it's it's a very drinkable, very approachable Scotch. It's sweeter. There's not much smoke on it, which I typically don't enjoy. Not typically don't go for. This and then I think the Glenmorangie 10 are like the two lighter Scotches, the ones that I really like to take a wee dram of every so often for a nice balance.
It's a
What do you guys think?
nice change of pace. I like it. And I'm not a huge peaty Scotch guy, but I'm becoming one. So this is more like in my wheelhouse in terms of, because it's not a peaty Scotch.
It's just so sweet to me. It tastes like honey to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this. So I'm honestly not a fan of Dalwhinnie. I appreciate this pairing, and I'm glad we're doing this with this cigar, because this cigar, how we're describing it, right? It's not a really aggressive smoke. It's mild, medium, has a creaminess about it that I think pairs well with a light Scotch like this. I think to Grinder's point, I mean, Dalwhinnie 15 for me was an introduction to Scotch. It's one of the first single malts that I had, because it's very light, honey, sweet, not a whole lot else. And so it was very useful to get into Scotch. I feel like most people, if someone were to say to you, hey, I want to start drinking Scotch, but I'm a little bit intimidated, you would start them with something like this or a Glenmorangie 10, like Grinder mentioned. But for where my palate is now, the only time I would probably pick this up is if for some reason I woke up in the morning and felt like I needed a Scotch, which is not very often, or it's
just some mornings,
only once or twice a week,
or it was just extremely hot outside, and I just want something light and sweet, but I'm still craving Scotch. This would slot in there
on the boat,
but on Poobah's boat that we're waiting on.
Did you pick up the boat yet?
But outside of that, for me, I look for a bit more flavor in Scotch, so I don't normally pick this up, to be honest.
Yeah, it's it's light in color. You can see it's on the lighter side. I think you're right. I think it's a good introductory Scotch. And it's very approachable. It's, for me, when you smell it on the nose, you get that malty Scotland malt flavor. I hate to say like, oh, this cigar smells like tobacco, but similar to this, like it smells malty, but the taste is just, for me, it's so sweet and so crisp on the finish. I like it.
I think it's working really well with the cigar. When you take a sip of the Scotch and then you do a draw on the cigar, it kind of opens up in the back of your mouth. You guys should try that.
Yeah, it's very nice.
It's cool.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
I'm actually pleasantly surprised. Fantastic. Like, I didn't realize that I'd enjoy it this much. But I think this would be, once again, agree with Senator and Grinder in terms of, I think I'm going to have one at home now for a lot of people who come over and want to try Scotch or, want to at least join in on the Scotch, because typically we tend to have more flavorful and, I guess, ranges of Scotches. And but I was just thinking about this. I said on a nice summer day on a deck, I don't mind, having a Scotch like this. Something light. I think it's flavorful, very sweet. I'm enjoying it.
I'm curious, Pagoda. I feel like you've tried some of the Japanese Scotches. Is Hibiki the lighter one?
Yeah.
How would you compare that to this? Is it as light in flavor profile? Is it a little more flavor?
So, like Hibikis, they're typically the lighter whiskeys. What I find is that this is much sweeter, though they're less sweet. Yeah, meaning I always consider them, a lighter profile whiskey, and I tend to typically have it in the summer. But I've had it, actually, I remember going to Montreal, and I went to one of those Casa de Habanos, and when I was having so I ended up buying an E2, Pathika's E2, and they offered Hibiki as a pairing, which I kind of enjoyed. So when you think about on the PTN, where, we'll go to the Lagavulin 16, I think, or even how we like the Macallan 12s and, the sherry tasting sweetness, that sweetness is very different. I think this seems to me more like a very floral, fruity sweetness. It's a different type of sweetness, or the honey, I think, kind of adds to it. So,
oh, that's helpful. So not as sweet as this, but as light. As
light.
this.
It feels much lighter comparatively. I haven't had this is one of the first times I'm having this, and I haven't had a hibiki for a while.
No, I mean, I really like hibiki. I would, if I were to kind of cross compare this to the Japanese Scotch whiskeys, hibiki would be the one for sure, because it's light, it's balanced. Hibiki to me is more citrusy than honey sweet. What I'm getting with this,
That
definitely
makes
more
sense.
citrusy.
Is it Dalwhinnie that you guys had? It was the cigar malt.
That was Dalmore.
Oh,
Dalmore.
Dalmore, yeah, the
much
cigar
fuller flavor. Dalmore.
A lot of sherry. In it.
I got to say, so I just poured a little bit more for Poobah and I had an ice cube in it originally, and I just poured it now without an ice cube.
Doesn't need it.
It doesn't need the ice cube. I think
No.
the ice cube actually opened it up
Too much.
too much.
Yeah.
And
No,
I
it
think
does,
I
this
think
does
now,
not need ice at all.
yeah, I agree.
This would go, honestly, this would be a good scotch to, well, like all scotches, but this would be a good scotch to put in a Glencairn glass, neat, and just really like get your fucking nose in it.
Yeah.
And like just, taking all the.
What is that? What kind of glass is that?
A Glencairn glass is it's like a little pear-shaped glass. It's kind of like a snifter, but it's round at the bottom, kind of like the pot, and then it narrows and then flares at the end.
Do you pour like certain whiskeys in that, or?
No, I don't think so. It's just it's a really nice way to isolate the aroma of the scotch in the Glencairn glass. Drink it neat and isolate it. Really be able to swirl it around and open it up and get your nose in there and taste it that way.
So I have another question.
Yeah.
When you guys do these tastings, I'm usually not a part of this, drinking my Pellegrino, but does the glass matter? I mean, you guys drink out of a plastic cup. Does it matter to you guys? Like if I drink beer, even if it's non-alcoholic, I prefer to do it in a proper glass. So does stemware come into play? And if it does, to me, I would want it in a glass.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I'll be honest. I very, 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 very rarely ever use a Glencairn glass. I'm always using a tumbler, and to me, it doesn't matter.
Which is basically what we're drinking out of now.
It's a tumbler,
I think that the point is you want something that is wide enough that it's going to allow
breathe.
to breathe, any tannins to sort of evaporate, and for you to be able to, in the most sensory of ways, get the nose as you're about to sip the scotch, and the full flavor of it. And so I'm with Grinder. I mean, I have a few of those glasses you were talking about, and I really rarely use them. I feel like to this point, any tumbler really
It's
gets the
just
job done.
aesthetics, I guess.
It's something it's something you pull out for like
Special
occasion.
Right.
I'm never gonna put the normal rotation of scotch in a Glencairn glass just because why? Then I have to go grab it from the special cabinet and do something nice with it. And
Is Glencairn the name of the person, or?
I think it's just the name. It's just the name of the glass. It's like it's not like a brand.
Okay.
Is it It is Glencairn, right?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Am I crazy? Now I need to look this up.
I also, the reason I don't use them that often either, there are a lot of scotches I like with a cube of ice. It's not really conducive to that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, Glencairn, and it's it looks like this. Hold on, come on, Amazon.
It's like fat at the bottom and then.
yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
I got it now.
Very nice.
And especially because I think a number of us like just a little ice with our scotch. Sometimes when you have that big tumbler glass, we like those big, giant squared cubes that
That's the
melt a
move.
lot slower so that it doesn't just water down the scotch too quickly. And you could obviously never fit that in a Glencairn glass.
or
so-
any. It's a faux pas to put any ice in those
Right.
fucking things.
That's true.
You don't.
What
you don't
about
do
the
that.
cubes that don't melt? Like they're like metallic cubes.
I
You
don't
seen
like those things.
I don't like them either.
I guess you want a little bit of
You want a little bit
a
of
little bit of water.
yeah.
to kind of melt and open up.
I love I got these glass tumblers on Amazon. I don't know how I found them, but they're so great because they're so heavy. I don't know why I like a heavy tumbler when I have a scotch. I don't like the square ones. I like a
you're
thick
fancy.
bottom.
You're fancy.
They were cheap, man, but I just feel so bougie when I drink that.
You are bougie while you're getting there.
I'm wearing a hoodie. Is that a problem?
You don't want
Is that a problem for the group?
Today was like
A hoodie with a collar.
you don't want to get Senator going on glassware. He could do a whole podcast on
This
on
is fair.
stemware.
With wine,
glassware.
stemware matters.
I like plastic stemless glasses for my wine.
I
Personally.
think Stemware matters.
Oh, no. So again, I think with
it
whiskey, I'm not as convinced that it makes any dramatic difference. But with wine, it is very important. Period. You should not be drinking your red wine and white wine out of the same glasses. That's all I'm going to say.
For
Oh,
beer,
100%. That's correct.
for
Yeah.
beer, I will always put beer in a glass with ample amount of head.
And just the same way. So Rooster mentioned champagne before, and I think every listener at this point knows how much I love champagne after I sabered on our New Year's episode. Champagne is another example where, a typical champagne flute is that very narrow glass, right? That's very long. And, champagne, for whatever reason, in I feel like years past, certainly not that much, not nearly as much recently, was served in coupe glasses that are wide open. And I have completely adopted, I'm on the coupe train. I have coupe glasses that I'll serve cocktails that I'll make out of and that I love to serve champagne out of. And I feel like you just get a much more sensory full experience when you're really tasting a champagne out of that coupe glass, where the nose that you can get on that champagne is so restricted by a champagne flute that's very narrow and elongated. So Rooster, I think brings up a very important point.
So is the reason why it's a flute because so it doesn't lose the effervescence that quick? Is that part of the reason why
I
it's
think
that
that's
shape?
absolutely part of the reason. And I think, why I am not sold on that being a necessity is the reality is, and I'm going to sound like a snob for saying this, but, good champagne, you don't have to worry about that. That's really a concern with really, really budget champagne where you pour that. It's not even champagne, a budget sparkling wine where you pour that. And all of a sudden you're looking 60 seconds later and there are no more bubbles moving in that glass. It's just flattening out right away. So with really good champagne, you really don't have to be concerned about that. And that's why in a coupe glass, it's not going to lose that effervescence. And for me, it's a more sensory experience when you're tasting and appreciating a champagne.
I learned something. Yeah.
So I guess no Asti Spumante for you, right?
Absolutely not.
The second, I guess you call this the second half or the second third, or it's delicious. It's getting better for me. I mean,
agree.
It's not as harsh. It's still not something I'm gonna.
Yeah, it keeps improving. For me.
Keeps going.
It does. It's lightning.
I feel like though
it's rounding out.
I do feel like this is smoking faster than I expected it to.
Well, the draw is so open.
It is, and I feel like I'm moving faster through this than certainly I would through a Mag 46 or another a Corona of that size.
You're at BAM speed tonight.
Yeah, and I'm not smoking fast.
Well, it's very strange because I am a fast smoker. I'm not as fast as BAM, but I'm a fast smoker, and I feel like I'm not as far along as a number of you guys, and I'm not sure why that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe my draw is just a little bit snugger that I'm not going through this as quickly, but boy, I'm still enjoying every
It's a
single
fantastic cigar. Thank you, Poobah, for bringing
Absolutely
this.
great
Thanks,
cigar.
It's a great cigar.
And again,
It's one
for
of
the
my favorites.
for the price, I mean, you can't find.
Yeah, what are these a stick?
They're you get $300 for 25 of them, so a little over $10-12 a stick, I guess.
They're nice. It's for me. It's the reason why I have these in my humidor is because it's a nice change up. It's a nice change of pace from. I think someone mentioned it on the last pod. Maybe it was you, Giz. Like I get into my routine. I get into my and it's easy to sometimes I look at my humidor and all I see is Partagas and Upman and Padron and and I'm in some Davidoffs and I'm kind of sometimes go, well, I'd like something just different than that. So I think having these around, and then if you want to buy more, buy more. But I think, buying a box of these and having them, they're good. They set up, to Rooster's point, they set up really good for aging. Because it's not, yes, it's medium, but in strength, but it does deliver kind of a full flavor experience. So I think that they'd age pretty well over time. I haven't had an aged one, a really old Juan Lopez, but I would imagine they'd age pretty nice. So I for me, I think that they're really great to have around, and I'm just looking around the room. I mean, I touched it up once or twice or something, just a little, but it's a pretty razor sharp burn on mine. It's holding its ash. It's pretty good. Stacked up nice.
To your point, amazingly, I haven't touched this up a single time.
Neither have I.
I'm really surprised.
I've touched mine once or twice.
I'm a little bit of a fiddler, though.
I touch mine every night.
You like to fiddle around.
Well, yeah, I like to.
Can we edit that? No.
But they're good to have.
It's funny you said that, Poobah, because a couple times this weekend I was thinking about that, because I've bought so much stuff recently. I know we all have, that I'm kind of going back into the Tupperware, to do some long-term aging and some storing of some New World sticks. But I really find that to be a benefit of having that tower, where you can stand in front of it and kind of examine what you have and what you want to smoke. And last night I pulled out a Partagas Maduro 3, which I hadn't smoked one of those ever. I just got a $5 from somebody, but in the Tupperware, it's kind of like you're grabbing what's on top, unless you're literally going to pull everything out. So the 6-foot tower has been such an improvement for my collection and my smoking habits. I mean, like you said, I get into my routine. I smoke the same thing all the time, but that tower certainly changed that, and obviously the pod too. But
you know what? Every single one of us in this room right now has a tower. One of us is getting a tower very soon. The issue with after getting a tower is sometimes you spend like 20 minutes staring at the tower.
I did that yesterday.
Trying to decide what you're going to smoke. And I've literally pulled out like 5 sticks out of the tower. Then I bring it upstairs and I'm like, I'm going to choose one out of these 5. I mean, it's a decision. It's kind of like going to a diner.
Like the menu's too big.
You get a 5-page menu.
The menu's too big.
Deciding what you're going to pick.
Well, that's why I was
too
thinking.
Many options sometimes.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking about, which may sound like lunacy to some, but like Rooster, you have a Daniel Marshall desktop, and like there's merit to. I mean, when you're buying a lot of boxes, having a desktop humidor that's just convenient to just like open up and kind of go into and have a variety of stuff stacked in there.
It's so practical.
It's kind of it's not, yeah. I mean, I don't know how, it's convenient.
Okay.
It's convenient. There's a convenience level in my mind to it where it would help me, because I have a lot of different things in the tower that maybe I'm aging or that I'm not touching for a while, and I'm fiddling around and I'm pulling out drawers where you could stage stuff that you'd want to, in my mind, I'm just something I was thinking about. You stage some stuff in a nice desktop, and then you can just go in there and real quick.
There's another benefit to that though too, and that is stepping down the humidity as you're preparing to smoke. So let's say you're storing something at a higher humidity, you're keeping it for a while. You not to dry box it per se, where you really try to dry it for a day or whatever before you smoke, but putting in a desktop humidor, pulling it closer to that lower humidity so it smokes even better. I mean, that's another benefit of what you're saying too, is, you can start to step it down a little easier without having to step down an entire box or
yeah, like instead of doing like what I would call a loadout, like I'm going to do a loadout for the night. You have a desktop where you kind of say, okay, I'm going to load out some stuff, and then have like a, instead of digging through to the back of my humidor to get to the little cabinet of Juan Lopez, because that's where it kind of lives, because I'm not digging in there. It's, you have 2. You put 2 in the desktop, and it's just another thing to just spend money on.
And it's good too for your tower. It's good too for your tower to be opening it less.
But what do you feel about, like, if you have a desktop humidor and you put like multiple or different sticks? I mean, do the flavors kind of,
unless they're
marry? I mean, You're putting padrones.
Unless they're infused, I don't think you're
Yeah,
gonna
I
have
don't
that
think
problem.
so.
Yeah, I don't think so. The only thing, I mean, I think what works out nice in those circumstances is cigars that are a bit rough around the edges and really need time. I actually feel like benefit when they're in close proximity to other cigars and can really marinate. I just say that because, before having a tower, when I was just using desktop humidors, cigars that I was not crazy about and I knew just really needed to rest for a while, and I would just leave them in there with other cigars that I was pulling out and smoking left and right. And I'd go back in there in 6 months and I would just light one just to see if it had gotten better. And the change, it felt dramatic. It really did. Cigars that I wanted no part of for a long time, and just 6 months and especially 12 months later, just marrying with those other cigars, I'm sitting there saying to myself, wow, this is like a whole different cigar.
Yeah. It's funny because we've talked about Monty 2s before, and like the troubles that can come, the inconsistent or the things. So I had a bunch of Monty 2s, a bunch. So I just said, forget it. I took the boxes and I tossed the boxes, and I took some ribbons I had from cabinet boxes, and I just made 25 count bundles, and I just tied them up and put them like in the top rack in the back of the tower, and just bundled them and just let them sit and bundled them. And I don't smoke Monty 2s that much anymore, but I went in and I pulled one from the middle of the bundle, and I hadn't smoked one in like a year. And I pulled one out of the middle of the bundle the other day. I think on the text, I sent it out. Like, I had a Monty 2. It was great because I pulled it from the middle of that. Now, I'm not saying empirically that was the reason, but maybe they're sitting and they're kind of like, I made my own little bundle with a ribbon and I tied them up in a little bundle.
To your point, I just did the exact same thing with Romeo and Juliet at Churchill's, where we've talked about this. And at some point, maybe we'll review this because this is probably the most frustrating cigar for me. I think Giz
Throw him in the lake.
Yeah, Giz is already shaking his head. Where
So frustrated.
I've
with
had
cigars.
some Romeo and Juliet at Churchill's that have been really, really tasty, and I've had other ones where the draw has been a nightmare. I've gotten like a blast of tar out of this cigar. I mean, crazy, wild stuff has happened, and I got so frustrated. Now, mind you, I've gone on my crusade about how I hate dress boxes. They come in a dress box. I took them all the rest of the box. This was a UEB box, a good box code. It's a 2019 box. It's
Very
got
good
some
code.
age.
I have the same box.
Yeah, we got the same one.
Yeah,
and it's like, it's by every measure should be an outstanding box of cigars. And I finally just took them out of that dress box. I threw the thing out. I put them exactly like Poobah said at the top of my humidor, let them marinate with other loose Cubans I had up there. And I lit one up the other day. I sent you guys a photo. I know Giz immediately, how's it smoking?
First question,
Expecting it to be terrible. And I actually enjoyed it. It was finally like a Romeo Churchill that I knew. So again,
Maybe
this
needs
is
air, it needed
anecdotal.
air.
It just, something happens when cigars are able to age either in a cedar cabinet, as I think they ideally should be, or just with other cigars in a nice cedar, cabinet humidor.
I think I had two things that I would, not insights, but comments about. There's a nice, something nice to have about a nice desktop humidor. It just adds an element of class to your living room. Put it on the coffee table. If you have a nice one, it makes it a lot more pleasant for the wife to be like, oh, that's a nice little piece of furniture just hanging out, for guests to see or whatever, right? And also there's the utility of it, of having the cigars that you would, either smoke often, just right there, or ones that maybe you want to age a little bit or whatever, right? To have it available, even if you want to showcase it to guests when they come. The other thing that I would say is that if you have a good desktop, it's in a lot closer proximity to some of the good Spanish cedar. It really does, to your point about someone used the term marinating. It does round off some of the sharper edges for some of the harsher cigars because it's so close to that Spanish cedar, and because it's a lot easier to control. It's easier to control the temperature. It's easier to control the humidity. It's not as much space. And I think if you want to fast track any kind of aging process, get it out of the larger container and put it in the smaller container. That's, I think there's something to be said about that.
So going back to we were talking about the number 2 Monte Cristo. Have you guys tried the petite version of that?
No, I want to.
The Petite 2?
Number 2 is
I have.
fantastic.
Really?
I want to.
And same thing with the Edmundos. If
The
you
Petite
try-
Edmundos are unbelievable.
Petite Edmundo is better than the, to me, I mean, regular Edmundos.
Can we say we're going to review that at some point?
We have
Because
to.
I really want to try that. I've never had one.
Yeah, I have a box of the Petite Edmundos. Those
Yeah.
are really.
We have to.
I
review
just
that.
I just got a box of 10. They're
Yeah,
fantastic.
but the petite number 2 that he's talking about though is like a little bit of a hidden secret. And like people in the know, that you can grab those and find those maybe even with a little bit of age, and that's that's a little secret. And I think that maybe not a secret, but and people love the Petit Edmundo. And Senator, I know that you've had those, and you're not a huge fan, not too bullish on them, but people like them. I mean, people do like them, and I've bought multiple. I've never bought a full box, but I've bought multiple like 5-packs, and I've had a number of aged ones. And they put off like a lot of smoke, a lot of combustion. They give you that kind of classic Monte Cristo blast, chocolate, and they're fun.
To me, I mean, we talk about disappointing sticks. I mean, Monte Cristo number 2, I know we talk about that a lot, up and down. Those Romeos, the Churchills that Senator mentioned too, from Romeo, I mean, that's got to be the number 1 most disappointing stick experience I've ever had in my history of buying and smoking cigars, which is not terribly long, but just consistently frustrating. And
I'm with you.
It's Cuba being Cuba, I guess. So I'm curious what the listener thinks. I mean, if you have any opinions on cigars that have disappointed you for one reason or another, I'd love for send us an email. And it is definitely time, I think, it is definitely time for the formal lizard rating. Are you guys ready?
I can't wait to rate the cigar.
The FLR. We are here now. My fingers are starting to burn. I've definitely smoked through this faster than I expected.
I mean,
to
I'm
tonight.
down at the nub as well.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah. All right, Rooster, you're up.
Okay. So I think the cigar is fantastic. A lot of flavor. A lot of flavors that I like. A lot of fruity floral notes. I think the construction could be better. A little better. I think the wrapper is a bit fragile. So I'm going to give it a solid 8.
Poobah?
This is a tough one for me. I'm gonna give it a 7.
7.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm
All right,
gonna give it a 7.
We'll talk about that in a second. I want to get into that. To me, I'm going to put this very close to the Mag 46. I can see this slotting in right next to it. For me, it's an 8.
So I'm in a tough position because this is very close, again, as I've said, to a Magnum 46. And I know I gave the Magnum 46 an 8. And if there were decimals, I would give this slightly higher. I'm going to have to give this an 8 because I have to round down. But if I have to compare the two, this would be slightly above. So I want to talk about why we all rated it, what we did. But man, this is very good.
Pagoda.
A 7 for me. Once again, kind of a very nice cigar, but is it something that I'm going to go ahead and buy a box today? Probably not. A 7 for me.
7 for me.
Bam Bam.
Bam's a 10.
I'm at a 9 all the way with the cigar. And if we
Okay.
get a chance to talk about it, I want to get into it.
We're about to start arguing and debating because
I think you're all nuts.
So that's
the composite
the
lizard
only
score
reason-
is 7.7 on the cigar. 7.7.
Oh,
So the reason why I gave it an 8 is because the ones that I've had in the past, it's from a box of 2011, and those are like a high 9. I would say 9 point something. This one, I think if it sits like a couple of years longer, I think it's definitely potentially a 9.
So Poobah and Pagoda, I'm curious what's with the 7s.
I'm a 7 too.
Well,
Oh yeah, and Grinder's a 7 too. Excuse me.
But it's so. I just want to caveat that, like, I really like the cigar. I brought him here.
Sure.
I bought him.
You gave us a 7.
I gave out.
you
7.
gave me a 9.
and I really yes, and I really do like the cigar, and I'll buy more. and I'll smoke them. I just, for me, I prefer, if we're talking Corona Gordas, but as you guys know, I'm a really big Upman fan. I like the flavor profile of the Marca. To me, that it delivers a little bit more of what I like. It's all personal preference. There's nothing, by the way, nothing about the cigar at all.
Oh, listen, a 7.7 is still a recommend for sure with this group.
You know, and we're dealing with whole numbers too. If I was really going to rate it, I'd give it like a 7.8. Do you know what I mean? But since I have to give it it would be
which
up
is close
there,
to where we landed, 7.7.
Right. Well, is that okay?
Yeah.
Great. So I'm just speaking extemporaneously here. So yeah, I would have given it like a 7.8. Like it's close to an 8 for me. But it's really good. It just doesn't align fully with what I want all the time. But that doesn't mean I don't want it sometimes. It's just personal. So I really enjoyed it. I think for me, it gets a little bit like, it just doesn't deliver the kind of flavors, some of the dessert flavors that I really enjoy in a cigar. Up front, it does, but it's really good. I mean, I like it. It's a good cigar, and I think 7's still a strong recommend for me.
I'll say this just on my 8, and then I definitely want to hear from other guys that gave this a 7. What I wrestled with this cigar is, you know, I like its versatility and that I could have this in the morning or the afternoon. But after smoking this fully, would I light this up after a dinner? No. And the Mag 46 that obviously we've compared this a lot to because it's similar size, all of that. Would I light a Mag 46 up after dinner? Absolutely. Would I light a Mag 46 up in the morning? No. And so there are trade-offs with each cigar, and that's why they each have a place for me. But none has the versatility of, you know, let's say a D4 that I light up in the morning, the afternoon, after a meal, anytime, and that cigar is going to be outstanding for my palate. And I think I probably gave that a 9 when we rated it. So that's what I wrestled with this cigar. And the last thing I'll say is the last third of this cigar, I actually did not enjoy as much as the first 2/3. And as I was wrestling between an 8 or a 9, because it had more versatility to me than the Mag 46, which I started to lean a 9. But the last third, I don't enjoy as much. Where the Magnum 46, I will give credit. Every third of that cigar is pretty consistent, and that's the thing that really bumped it down to an 8 for me.
Yeah, I mean, I saw you shaking your head, Grinder, as he said about the last third that you were agreeing.
I mean,
with him.
I was going to say the same comment. It was just not. It was a little rough. The last third, the second third it got better. First third was okay for me. I definitely like some of the some of the unique spices, but I was thinking back to the Bellicosos Finos, which I also gave a 7, and I was struggling with this being better than that. You know, so that's why I give it a 7. It's not a 6 by any means. It's a great cigar. I love it, but it's not something that I'm going to reach for or come back to, unless it's unless I have a box that I can draw from.
Pagoda, why'd you give it a 7?
Yeah, it just felt like I kept seeking something more, you know, and maybe it's because of my flavor profile. You know, I tend to prefer cigars, you know, which are slightly bolder in flavor and smoother to, you know, some extent. Because in this, like I mentioned before in the podcast, I did feel a little bit of harshness in the back of my throat. It felt very mild. I could, you know, feel, at least taste some of a little bit of, you know, cedar, a couple of things, but nothing very pronounced. Yeah, so for me, it didn't really catch my attention saying that, hey, listen, this is a great cigar. Now, you have to remember, like, 8 and a 9 are really, really good cigars. You know, for me, I thought, would this be an 8? And, you know, it's not easy to rate as well, like, as you can imagine. So hence 7 for me.
All right, Bam Bam, the 9.
Yeah, there was nothing disappointing about this cigar for me. You know, there's a difference between bold body, right, and bold flavor. And Rooster, you said it perfectly earlier. It's a full-flavored medium-bodied cigar, and I love cigars like this. For me, it was flavor from beginning to end. Yeah, it got stronger as it got toward the end. For me, I had no harshness. It was a spectacular stick for me. Fantastic all the way through.
By the way, a lot of people feel that way.
And honestly, it was slightly reminiscent to a punch, very slightly at the beginning. And we all love that cigar. I really love that stick. But that combination of floral, a little sweetness, a tiny bit of pepper in the beginning, and creaminess, and as it got through to the end, yeah, the pepper kicked. But that's what makes for me a really interesting smoke as it changes and it gets down to the end. Loved it.
People really, there's a group of people who do really enjoy, this selection number one, and it's well regarded. So I think that it's just personal preference.
It's a fucking flavor bomb for me.
Right.
Totally.
Right.
And how do you not love that?
Well, I like the differences in scores in this. I think it's definitely one that any listener should be trying, and if they love it,
oh, absolutely,
certainly buy a box. And at a 7.7, I think that's a recommend for sure from the Lizards. And that's it. So Juan Lopez, selection number 1, 7.7, boys.
Good cigar.
Very good.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Keep smoking.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave us a rating and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any comments, questions, if you want to reach out, say hello, tell us what you're smoking, email us, loungelizardspod, P-O-D, that's loungelizardspod@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram @loungelizardspod. We really appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week.